Hi guys, this will be our reading lesson for the week of April the 6th. It will be in your book, Unit 5, Week 3. And I will talk to you today about a story called Cesar, Chavez. We're going to be looking in our small reading books today to find that story. It begins on page 358. So if you have your small reading books, you can look there to follow along with me. When I turn to this beginning of this story, it asks me a question. And the question that we want to consider for this week is, what do heroes do? So I've wrote on the board, what do heroes do? I want us to spend some time thinking about the word heroes for just a minute. And I want us to think about, what is a hero? And what does it mean to be a hero? What do heroes do? Well, in my book, I see a picture of a man, and I want to think about who he might be. It says, what is a hero? A hero is someone who is looked up to by others because of his or her own achievements. Maybe they've done something courageous. Maybe they've achieved a lot in their life. Maybe they've inspired someone else. Maybe they help others. This is a picture of a rescue worker. And a rescue worker is a hero to many people. Let's think of some other heroes. When I think about a rescue workers risk their lives to save others. They try to save other people's lives. Let's think of some other heroes. I'm going to write some up here on our chart. The first hero I think about is a doctor. How is a doctor a hero? What makes a doctor a hero? Well, they save lives. They help the sick. Okay, let's think of another hero. The next hero I thought about come to my mind was a fireman. A fireman is a hero. How is a fireman a hero? What makes them a hero? Well, they also save lives. Another thing that a fireman might do to help is put out fires. Okay, another hero. Let's keep thinking. Another hero might be a police officer. What makes a police officer a hero? Well, they keep people safe. So we have three good examples of a hero. We have a doctor. We said that a doctor is a hero because they save lives and they help the sick. We have a fireman. A fireman's a hero because they save lives and put out fires. And we have a police officer. A police officer is a hero because they keep people safe. Let's take the S off of that. They keep people safe. So these are some really great examples, but they're not the only heroes that we have. You might want to think about your mom or your dad might be a hero. They take care of you. They help you. They make sure you're safe. Those are all heroes. You know, I can think of some heroes in history. And this week, we're going to read a story about two very special heroes. Our first individual is called Cesar Chavez. And we're going to read the story about him in just a minute. And we're going to be thinking about how he was a hero. We're also going to read in another story later this week about Brave Bessie. Brave Bessie is a second hero that we will be learning about, Bessie Coleman, this week. Before we get into our story today for Cesar Chavez, I want to talk about our words. These are our vocabulary words that we're going to see in our story. When I hold up the word, I'll say the word and you repeat it after me. Are you ready? Agree, challenging, discover, heroes, interest, perform, study, succeed. Very good. These are our words that we're going to be looking at this week, and I want to talk to you about their meaning before we move on. There's a great page in our vocabulary books, in our reading books, that's labeled vocabulary, that gives us a picture along with a sentence to go with each word. So let's talk about what these words mean as we see them in our story. The first word was agree. In this picture, I see a little girl with her grandmother playing cards. To agree means to get along or to have the same interest or the same thought. Grandma and I agree to play a card game. Our second word is challenging. This little girl is doing some homework. It says the hard math problems is challenging to me. The hard math problem is challenging to me. Challenging means difficult or hard. Our next word is discover. I've got a picture of a little boy digging in the dirt. I dig in my backyard to discover buried treasure. I know the word discover means find. My next picture is a picture of a fireman with a fire hose. And our word is hero. Lucky for us, we put that on our wall, right? Firefighters are heroes that help people. So the word hero is someone that helps others. Our next word is interest. I've got a little boy playing the violin. An interest is something that you like. Adam has an interest in music. He likes it. Perform. I've got a picture of some kids singing. To perform means to put on a show or a play or to do something in front of an audience. These kids are singing. My class likes to perform songs at school. My next word is study. I've got a little boy right here looking through a telescope. So to study means to go over or to practice or to look at something. I like to study the planets. That's why he's looking at them through the telescope. He's studying them. Hopefully you will study these words this week and learn those. Our last word is succeed. And we've got two little girls playing a game of chess. To succeed means to reach your goal, to accomplish something. I hope I succeed in winning the game. So she hopes she accomplishes that goal. These are some words that you're going to see in our stories this week. I hope that you find the study page that's on our Google Classroom page that you can look at to study our words. It has our words and their meanings along with our spelling words, so you can practice those this week. As I read the story today, I want you to listen for our words and listen for what they mean as I read them in the story. If we think about them and how they are read in the story, it'll help us to understand them a little better. I also want to think about the word synonym. As I think about my words, some of these words reminded me of a word that means the same. Synonym means the same. Remember we said S for synonym, S for same. That's a way you can remember that. And when I thought about my words this week, I thought about, as we were reading those, some synonyms that go with my words that help me to know what they mean. This word is challenging. I can think of a synonym for the word challenging. Can you? A synonym for challenging might be hard or difficult. So synonyms help us to understand a word a little bit better as we read it. I want you to think about a synonym for these words too as we're reading them in the story. Sometimes when you read a story, the author will place a synonym in the sentence along with that word to help you understand what that difficult word means. If you're not sure, as you read the sentence and read the words around it, you can figure out the meaning a little easier. So this is our story this week, and it is called Cesar Chavez. And this story is a biography. Now, when we talked about biographies before, we said that a biography is a story that is true, and it gives facts and information about a person's life. It is written by someone else. So we have two different kinds of stories. We can have an autobiography, or we can have a biography. Remember that an autobiography is a story someone writes about their own life. So if I decided to write a story about my own life, then it would be considered an autobiography because I'm writing the story. But if I were writing a story about someone else, then it would be a biography because I'm writing about someone else. So as I read a biography, I want to think about facts and information that it gives me. I also want to think about the sequence. The sequence is important because when I read the facts and information, normally they give me a date. And a date is very important so you can know exactly when things happen. And as I read a story and look at the dates, I can put the events in the order of how they happened. And when an author writes a story about someone's life, that's exactly what they do, is they look at the dates of the events that happened in a person's life, and they put those events in a certain order of how they happened. And they write the story in the order in which they happened. That's called the sequence. Something else you can listen for in the story to help give you a clue about sequence are time order words. First, next, then, last, finally. All those words help give us clues as to when things happen. So I want you to listen closely for those words too as we read. Another thing to think about as we're reading is the captions. In this story, I see that there are headings on each page that label each section. This one says childhood. So everything under that paragraph is going to tell me all about his childhood. As I flip on over, I've got another label, hard times, changing lives. So when I'm looking for certain information about Cesar Chavez, let's pretend that I wanted to know when he went to school or where he went to school. I would look under his childhood to find that, and it would probably tell me a little bit about him growing up. So those headings help us to know what information we're going to be reading about in that section. Okay, I'm going to read this story. It's on page 362 in your small reading book if you would like to follow along. Here we go. I also want you to think about, as I read, the hero, okay? Think about Cesar Chavez and how he was a hero. What makes him a hero in this story, okay? So listen for that also. Here we go. Who are your heroes? For many farm workers, Cesar Chavez is a hero. He is the brave man who spent his life helping them. Cesar Chavez was born in Arizona. His parents taught him about learning, hard work, and respect. Cesar worked on the family farm as a young boy. He helped care for the farm animals. His mother and grandmother taught Cesar about caring. Many people came to their door asking for food, and his kind family always shared. You know, as I'm thinking about Cesar and how he grew up, his parents taught him a lot about how to help others when he was young. That could be why he was so willing to help the farmers when he became an adult. Cesar had a strong interest in education. This desire to learn was sometimes hard on him. Spanish was his first language, but he needed to learn and study English. At school, he was punished for speaking Spanish. His mother taught Cesar to find peaceful ways to solve problems. These lessons helped him succeed later in life. He would win struggles without fighting. Oh, as I'm reading that part, it makes me think about someone else that we read about that solved their problems using their words instead of fists. Do you remember who I'm talking about? That's right, Martin Luther King. Peaceful, right? When Cesar was 10, it did not rain for a long time. This drought caused the plants on the farm to die. Without crops to sell, Cesar's family couldn't afford to keep the farm. I'm noticing that there's a dark, bold print word here, and it says drought. That tells me that this is an important word. If I don't know what the word drought means, I can go back and look at the sentences around it, and it might give me a clue as to what the word drought means. When Cesar was 10, it did not rain for a long time. This drought caused the plants on the farm to die. So from reading those words, it tells me that a drought must have made the plants die. What could make the plants die? That first sentence said that it didn't rain for a long time. So I'm thinking the word drought means a long time without rain. Then Cesar's family moved to California, where there was no drought. His family traveled from farm to farm and worked the crops. Cesar and his family would quickly discover that migrant farm workers had difficult lives. I'm thinking about that word migrant, and I don't really know what that means. So let's think about what we just read. It says that his family traveled from farm to farm and they worked the crops. So that must mean that a migrant is someone that works for a living on farms but travels to find work. So they move from place to place as they work on the farms. Their challenging jobs forced them to work long hours for little money. The workers bent over all day tending the crops. The work they had to perform made their backs hurt and their fingers bleed. If workers complained, farm owners fired them. Sounds like they had a tough job, doesn't it? Cesar knew the migrant workers were not treated fairly, so he decided to take action. He told the migrant workers that he had a plan. It was time for grapes to be harvested or picked. Cesar told the workers to stop working. This was called a strike. The grapes began to rot. With no grapes to sell, the landowners lost money. Finally, the owners talked to Cesar. They promised better pay. After that, the workers began picking the crops again. I see another bold print word, and it says strike. That must mean that it's a very important word. Let's think about, where have we heard the word strike before? That's right. When we read about the different people in history that were fighting for equal rights, we talked about different people that had different freedoms, and we talked about how they went on strike. They would quit riding the bus, or they would boycott buying certain things, or they would do the sit-ins. Those were all different ways that people in history fought without fighting using their fists. That was a peaceful way. So a strike meant that they would stop working for a while. And if they didn't work in the fields and pick the grapes would die. No one was there to pick them. So the landowners were losing money. So they quickly changed their minds about their rules. And after that, the workers began to pick grapes again. So they got what they wanted in a peaceful way. Cesar Chavez worked for the rest of his life to improve farm workers' lives. Would you agree that he is a hero? What do you think? Cesar, a hero? I would say so. I would say that we could add Cesar Chavez to our list of heroes because he helped the farm workers get better treatment. So let's go ahead and add his name to our list. And what makes him a hero? He helped the farmers get better treatment or fair treatment. He helped them to get fair treatment. You know, Cesar did some things to stand up for what was right. And sometimes it takes a good leader to be a hero. It takes someone to be a leader to stand up and do the right thing. And Cesar did that. He stood up for what was right. And because of that, they all thanked him. So Cesar was a hero. In this story, I also noticed that there is a timeline on this page, a timeline of Cesar Chavez's life. The author has included the dates of different events that were important in Cesar's life. In 1927, he was born on March 21st. In 1937, his family moved to California. 1942, he finished 8th grade and began full-time farm work. How about that? He went to work after the 8th grade full-time. In 1962, he started National Farm Workers Association. In 1965, he convinced the workers to have a strike. In 1991, he gave speeches about treating workers fairly. In 1993, he helped farm workers until he died on April the 23rd. And then again in 1994, he won the U.S. Medal of Freedom. So after he passed away, they awarded the Medal of Freedom in his honor. So I would say that there were a lot of people that thought that he was a very important person in history. When we think about a story that's a biography, we want to remember that we're looking for facts and information about a person's life, that it's going to be true information. We also want to remember the important parts of a biography. The headings for each section helped us to know what we're going to be reading about. The timeline shows important dates and information. And the bold print words help us to understand words that are important in the story. Another important part of a biography is the sequence. Remember, we said that sequence is how an author arranges the events in the order in which they happen. In this case, we have dates that are put in order for the events that happened in his life. And the story was told in the order of how things happened in Cesar's life. Another thing that we can look for on sequence are the time order words. First, next, then, last, finally. Those are all important words that signal the events that are happening, and they help us to know the order. So today, I want you to think about a hero. I want you to think about what makes someone a hero. Cesar Chavez was one example of that, but there are many heroes. Remember that a hero is someone who is looked up to by others because of their achievements or because of courage that they have shown towards someone or something. Cesar showed courage because he stood up, remember, to do the right thing. And we're going to read another story later this week called Brave Bessie. And she also showed courage and bravery. And so she's considered a hero. And we're going to read that later this week. Go ahead and get on Google Classroom, and you can look at the different activities, the different assignments that I have given you on there that go with this week's story. And you can answer some of the questions and work on some of the vocabulary and spelling words. I also want you to think about your journal writing. Remember to be writing each day. Journal some things that you think about after we read our stories. What is a hero? Maybe you want to write in your journal about what a hero is. Maybe you have someone that you consider a hero. Maybe you want to write a few sentences about someone that you think is a hero. Anything you think of is fine, but just keep journaling, just keep reading, and keep practicing your words. And I'll see you next time. Bye.